The couple that we're talking about today is a military couple, and for the sake of this video, we're just going to call them John and Jane. John is retired military, and as a government employee, he has many options available to him for retirement income or income-based assurances in the event that he can't work. However, his wife's security is tied to him. They felt very confident about what it was that they had until they did the math. And what they realized was if you take him out of the equation, if anything were to happen to him, she would lose almost all of those benefits. That's not okay.
So John currently has a government job. He's retired military, so there's several benefits that he currently has already in place along with the income that he has from working for the government. So he's got his disability income, he's got his traditional retirement account, his TSP, a pension. He's got a lot in place currently that's providing their current income. And in addition, Jane also works. So I think in total they have about 180,000 in income that they make. And the issue is this.
He realized that there was a false sense of security in the products that the military had marketed, not that they were bad, just flawed for providing for families beyond like the member. If the member's gone, the families are kind of left out to dry.
Yes, they would have life insurance. Yes, they would have a portion of the pension that she would receive. But in total, in addition to what it is she currently makes, there would be a deficit there.
Again, John's retired, so he elected into the SBP, the Survivor Benefits Plan. So he knows that if anything happens to him, his wife will receive up to 55% of the pension that he's entitled to at retirement age. But they're both 20 years from their predicted retirement age, so they've got a ways to go. The disability he receives from his time in service is currently just a portion of the income that supports their current lifestyle, and she brings in about a third of the income that supports them. And his current government job fills in the rest.
If something were to happen to him, that 120,000 that he currently brings in would obviously look different. And what they have determined is that difference is somewhere around a $50,000 gap.
So the obstacle is not knowing when the shift might take place, but knowing that she is not prepared to replace his income and would have to make some significant changes and do so on her own. So while they're 45 and not in a retirement age, their working income is all that can be depended on until they qualify for traditional retirement distributions.
The whole point and purpose of them receiving this index universal life insurance policy was so that this would supplement. And what they've learned is this IUL in its current form, in its current structure, will not do that. Their policy is $10,000 a year. It's projected to produce approximately $25,000 in supplemental income with a cash value of $350,000. The objective was, hey, I've got this IUL, I've got this product that I purchased for a reason. And when we watched your video, it seems like we could have the same product, but the income being generated is far different. Why is that? Can we bridge that gap using the same dollar amount over the same period of time in a similar designed product with one improved factor? What happens when you add additional leverage to a properly structured index universal life insurance policy?
So let's talk about why this one variable changes everything. For some people, leverage is translated to risk, while others, mainly the top 1% of wealthy, see leverage as fuel, power, and an accelerator. So for example, let's say that you and John's wife were hanging out one day and both of you mentioned that you spend $10,000 on cash value life insurance, but you quickly realize that both the cash value and the income each produce are completely different. What if that difference was like 131%, meaning your income and the cash value were on track to produce 131% more than John's wife's plan? It's the same $10,000, but the result is pretty alarming, especially when it impacts financial security and stability, especially if you didn't know that changing one thing could have doubled your income.
So the best way to explain the difference is to show a side-by-side comparison of an illustration with and without leverage. So when I received their illustration, what I wanted to do was duplicate that illustration, meaning I wanted all of the variables to be the same. So this illustration is for a 45-year-old standard tobacco rating, putting in $10,000 a year, $833 a month, which produces a death benefit of about $175,000. I duplicated this same illustration with the same criteria, again, 45 years of age, standard non-tobacco rating, and a death benefit of $175,000 per year, putting in the same $10,000 annually. This one is $833 a month. This one is $10,000 annually. What I wanted to also prove to them or show them was, yeah, there's some dollar cost there's some dollar cost averaging that happens in there, but the moral of the story is the math is the math. The math still works out the same, whether you're putting in $833 a month or $10,000 a year. But the difference between these two policies is the leverage piece. So, how do you know whether or not your policy is properly structured? How do you know whether or not your policy is properly designed? It's all about these factors. Is it max funded? Is it option B? Max funded is saying, hey, for this $10,000 a year that I'm putting inside this policy, am I purchasing the least amount of my life insurance legally possible? So let's drill in. So in this case, I'm putting in $10,000 a year, $833 a month, and I'm buying $175,000 in life insurance. How do you know whether or not your policy is max funded? How do you know whether or not the dollar amount that you're contributing into this policy is purchasing the least amount of life insurance legally possible? That's the first step. The first key is this has to be max funded. And then the second step, it's option B, meaning is your death benefit increasing? Meaning as I contribute $10,000 a year, is my death benefit of $175,000 increasing as I continue to put in this $10,000? Well, notice I put in $10,000 in year one. And if we come over here to the non-guaranteed column, the death benefit increased from $175,000 to almost $184,000. So it's almost a $10,000 increase, which means this is a max funded option B IUL, but no leverage. So how does it perform? Well, how do you know whether or not an IUL is properly structured or properly designed to produce maximum cash value? One of the questions that I always ask is, when do you break even inside this policy? So if I'm putting in $10,000 a year, if I come over here to year one, my accumulation value is about 8911. So I put in 10,000, I've got an 8911 in accumulation value working for me, meaning that's the amount of money working for me inside of my policy after fees and cost of insurance. So in year one, do I break even? No, I don't. So in year two, I've put in 20,000 total. I've got a total of about 18,360 working for me. So I still don't break even. So at what point do I break even inside this policy? Well, if you go to year five, 5 times 10 is 50. I've put in $50,000 at year five. I've got a total of 50,333 working for me inside of this policy, which means I break even at year five. Now, in most cases, if you were to, because I've looked at hundreds of life insurance policies like this, in most cases, a properly designed, properly structured cash value life insurance policy should break even somewhere around years 5, 6, or 7. I'd say somewhere in this range. So the fact that this policy breaks even in year 5 tells me it's a well-designed policy. But there's one piece missing. It's max funded option B IUL with leverage. Where's the leverage? So what's the difference in the policy they provided and the policy I created? Notice, it's the same. Same 45, same non-tobacco rating, same 175,000 initial benefit, same $10,000 a year. So answering the same question, when do I break even inside of this policy? Well, because I'm adding the leverage, I'm showing the leverage inside of this illustration, we actually break even at a different point. What do I mean? I've put in 10,000 in year one, which is the same 10,000 that you would have put in the other policy. Put in 10,000 in year two, same 10,000 that you would have put in to the other policy. But starting in year three, the life insurance company comes along and says, congratulations, because you've contributed consecutively in years one and year two, we are now going to allow you to add additional leverage inside your policy, add additional leverage in the form of new premium into your policy for everything that you've contributed in year one. So what you contributed in year one, we're now able to add as brand new premium at year three. So you've only put in $10,000, but the life insurance company has now added on top of that 10,000, an additional 10 that came from year one. So as a result, it looks like you're putting in 20,000 into this policy. So what does that mean? So now in year three, instead of you only having 30,000 working for you, you now have a total of $40,000 going into this policy. But how much did you personally put in? You personally put in 30. So if we're talking about break even from the perspective of how much of your money is working for you at year three. If you've put in 30,000, so you only, as far as skin in the game, as far as amount of dollars that you have input into this process, you only have $30,000 contributed. So of your $30,000, how much is working for you at year three? How about 39,608? Meaning you've put in 30, but you have 39,608 working for you. Now, it's a fact. There's an additional 10,000 added coming from the life insurance company. But as far as money out of your pocket, as far as money you've contributed, your break-even point inside this policy is now year 3. And this carries on year after year after year. Every odd year, we are able to increase the death benefit by adding more premium, which allows for more money working for you faster. And so what ends up happening over time, you play this out for the next 20 years, the growth inside this policy, instead of it being, 379,000 inside of a policy with no leverage, ends up being at age 65 about 1.2 million. So now the income generated out of a policy with leverage is based off $1.2 million of accumulated value compared to $337,000 inside of a policy with no leverage. So again, the difference between these two policies is simply the amount of leverage added. A policy with no leverage, properly designed, properly structured, designed with the least amount of fees, is growing efficiently. $337,000 in cash value or an accumulation value is a great dollar amount. But you apply the exact same strategy, exact same policy with leverage, secure leverage, it produces accumulation value of somewhere around 1.2 million. Which is better? Which one is more likely to produce more income? If 337,000 has the potential of producing about 25,000 in income over time, what would 1.2 million do? And now, this 1.2 million is a combined dollar amount. It's the amount that you've contributed, that 337. So inside this 1.2 million is your original accumulation value, 337,000. But in addition to that, there's a leverage dollar amount that produced a certain amount of accumulation value as well. So you're actually generating income based off 2 separate dollar amounts. And it's those 2 separate dollar amounts that allows you to generate income, or it's those 2 separate dollar amounts that allows you to generate more income, which is how we're able to achieve approximately $50,000 in supplemental income compared to only $25,000 in the original policy. So again, it's this dollar amount compared to this dollar amount.
So even though John and Jane's most crippling concern was safeguarding her in the event that something happened to him, this troubling cycle is something that many couples enter, and often the process of finding solutions can leave people feeling pretty scattered. What do? I don't know what questions to ask even, and how to understand all of this stuff. It's no doubt that a solution would help them both sleep better at night, but what about making the most of the time that they're here?
It's more than just about numbers. It's about financial security, peace of mind, knowing that their income would continue to grow and provide for them no matter what.
You can ensure security in the event of losing a spouse, or in a child's case, a parent, but with cash value like this, you can also make the most of the time you have together while you're both here. That shouldn't be the icing on the cake. That should be a standard for everyone.
I left a lot to be discussed. There's a whole lot that I didn't even touch on. Meaning, how is this even possible? Where are these dollar amounts coming from? And if we're talking about leverage, leverage implies borrow. Whose responsibility is it to pay back? There's a lot that we have not discussed. And so on our next live, we're going to break down how we achieve these dollar amounts and the structure required to be able to do so.
So bring your questions to our live stream, or just drop them in the comment section below.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. And why not even share this out? So I'm confident, if not you, you know someone who can use this information.
Either way, if you want to learn more about the strategies that we've used to retire early, pay off our home in less than 5 years, and achieve financial freedom, just click here. I'm Angelique.
And I'm Donnell.
And our goal is to help you
get self-directed.